the more capacity for alignment you have, the more capacity for great good is in you, and the more capacity for great evil is in you. Because how do you do great evil? You don't generally do great evil by going around and like eviling a lot as an individual. To some degree, you can do some amount of evil, but you really can only do small scale evil that way. Really big evil, like to be really evil, you got to get people organized. You get some industrial scale evil going. And that requires actually quite a bit of a skill at alignment. Like I hate to use the canonical example of evil, but like Hitler is good at aligning he aligned the German people around some really evil shit. That's a great example of how alignment's a very dangerous capability. And anyone who tells you that we're going to make an AI that's like aligned, I think if you're not careful, what they mean is I'm going to make an AI that's aligned to me. And then you better hope that the person who's saying that you are aligned to them, because they're saying, I would like to be in charge, please.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Founders in Arms podcast with me, Imad Akan, co-founder and CEO of Mercury.
And I'm Raj Suri, co-founder of Lima and Tribe. And today we have with us Emmett Shear, who's founder and CEO of Softmax, and previously co-founder CEO of Twitch, and also was a Y Combinator partner and famously interim CEO of OpenAI. So welcome, Emmett.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Glad to finally make this happen. We've been talking about this for a while. It's great to see you. And tell us about Softmax. You and I've never talked to you about it. I'm very curious about it. I know you're working with Adam Goldstein, who was my Y Combinator batch as well.
Yeah. Softmax is an alignment research company working on the question of what it would mean to align learning thinking systems with each other at all scales. And that sort of includes AI as well as people and societies, because in our view, the alignment question is not, it has relevance in AI, and AI is a useful tool for studying it, but it's not really about AI. It's about this question of how do complex learning systems align with each other? And what does that even mean? Because most people talking about alignment don't seem to have a really clear theory of it. And I started it with Adam, it was almost 2 years ago now, something like that. But for the first year or so, it was very heavily in the wilderness, trying to figure out what is this alignment thing? How would we know if we were making progress? What would be the conditions under which we could expect it to arise? When would we expect it to break? And about a year ago, we made pretty good progress on that, and we sort of started to have a direction. And at that moment, the universe served up to us my third co-founder, my second co-founder, the third co-founder of the team, David Blumen, who unbeknownst to us, had been working on the exact same problem, but as I guess not even a solo founder, by himself as an engineer on an open source project that he'd been working on, where he'd seen the same thing. He spent a year grinding on the same project. It was very clear when we met him, oh, you are our third co-founder. You both of us were just unaware that we had started this company together a year ago, because you'd been off on, you'd just been on a really intense programming component. And so we added him to the team like that. Right around that time, it sort of the things had come together, because that both gave us a technical basis to build on, and also we had the theory at that point. And so the last year has been very much building that out. And we're making great progress on that, on our simulator environment and on the future.
So what is the output, right? Is it a new model that is better aligned? Is it a series of research papers? What are you trying to produce?
Yeah, ultimately, what we are trying to produce is a training environment, a learning environment that is interactive and that enables agents to learn the requisite things to be aligned and to flourish. And it turns out that, in some sense, the major prerequisites are theory of mind, because in order to be aligned to other agents, you have to understand those other agents. You can't, in retrospect, it's kind of obvious, but the idea that you could be aligned to someone without very strong theory of mind about them is totally crazy. How would you do that in any kind of sustainable way? You can't possibly know what they're going to do next, or why they'll do it, or what their goals are, without the ability to infer what's going on inside their head. And so that's sort of one of these very deep prerequisites for alignment, and not just for individuals, but theory of mind over groups. What do we want? What are we doing here? There's a whole separate kind of group theory of mind that's required. And then the other prerequisite is sort of open-ended or continual learning. Not in the sense of you can pre-train forever, but in the sense of you have to stay plastic, stay flexible, because because people change, the world changes. Nothing, you don't get to finish training and be done. You always have to be in training because in some sense the world's going to be training. And if you can figure out a way to lift that training into like a context window, so you're continually learning in context, all you've done is turn the context window into your weights and you've learned the optimizer, which is actually a pretty good idea. Like that's probably the way to do it. But like ultimately you need to have a system that is capable of continuing to learn what's going on in the world in a world that's non-stationary, where you can't guarantee you've figured out the state space, where things are a little ambiguous. And so to learn those things, you need to be in an environment that has open-ended divergent dynamics, and you have to be around other agents who are also grappling with those things so you can learn to model them in that context. And that's sort of what we're trying to make. It's surprisingly complicated thing to make.
Is it like pre-training learning environment, post-training? When you say learning environment, is it like a set of questions and answers, or is it like a 3D world? Like how does it manifest?
Free your mind, Ahmad. Free your mind. Pre-training, post-training. These are but labels.
All the trainings.
These are labels. What does it mean for something to be a pre-training or a post-training? No, I mean, if anything, if I were to just try to stereotype it for people who are tracking like current AI training stuff, it would be like reasoning training, multiplayer reasoning training in open-ended strategic environments. Our current thing is a 2D grid world, but there's nothing intrinsically about the 2D grid world that like is important. It could be in a chat room, it could be 3D, it could be pure text, it could be video. Like the important thing is it's like there's like problems to solve that are rewarding to solve, but the problems shift and change, and it's multiplayer. Like many people are trying to solve them at the same time, and you can both cooperate and compete.
I always find alignment kind of funny. Like, is the idea that you're aligning with like humans in general, like the Asimov rules kind of thing, or is the alignment that like it will obey whatever command you give but not be stupid about it, or is the alignment there's like some greater moral philosophy that's like aligning with?
Right. Yeah. I mean, anytime someone tells you I'm working on alignment, the first question you should ask is aligned to what?
Yeah.
Because alignment is not it's like saying I'm trying to align this new thing I'm building. It's like, well, like align to what, to a direction, to like a goal, like what? And you can align things in a lot of different ways. And when we say alignment, we mean we actually don't mean a particular alignment. We mean this thing we call organic alignment. Organic alignment is the process of continually realigning and discovering exactly the answer to that question. It's sort of meta alignment. What should I be aligned to? Because that turns out to be the hardest part of alignment, is like, what exactly am I aligning to? What do I care about? And that is effectively this question: what wholes am I a part of? I am a part of my family. I'm a part of my community. I'm a part of humanity. I'm a part of America. I'm a part of San Francisco. I care about all these things. There's a sort of proper balance of care.
Isn't the worry with AI they'll decide that it's like the whole is AI and nothing, like humanity doesn't matter and it's just aligned with itself?
That would be bad. Yes, I would prefer that not to happen. I would call that an alignment failure. But the point is that alignment is relative to the person, the being that is aligning, and the thing to which it is aligning to. And ultimately, the way that cognition works, you are always aligning to yourself. In some sense, you're aligning to yourself and yourself reflected in the world. Why are you aligned with your family? Because your family is sort of like your extended self. Why are you aligned with your nation, with humanity? Because there's a way in which they're your extended self. And the things that are closer into you are more densely self, right? Your kids are like really you. There's a lot of you in that. Every person, there's some you in them. And so there's a lot of other people, but like low density, or a small number of people, high density. And it's all relative anyway, because if you find yourself on a desert island with 5 people on that desert island, you'll find what you have in common with those 5 people really fast. And if you find yourself in your country at war with a foreign country, you'll suddenly see all the ways in which you are, in contrast to that foreign country, more similar. Expats in some other country, right? They see how they find, oh my God, we're all Americans. We're like much more similar living in this other country abroad. And there isn't like an absolute answer, but the way we think about it is there's 3 steps here. First, I have to be aware that I am a being and that you are a being and that we could potentially be a being, but like in theory, there could be a we. And that's theory of mind. You have to actually have a model of yourself and a model of them and a model of the idea of collectives of agents. And until you have that, whether you are or not aligned is kind of irrelevant because if you are aligned, it's fragile, right? Because you could be aligned then, but it would be by happenstance. Like you could have a stick that's aligned to the direction north, but it's not going to stay aligned to that direction. If anything pushes it, it's going to move because it's not aligned that direction on purpose. It's just aligned. And then you have to raise it. You have to have it do inference in such a way that it is in an environment where it is true that you're aligned. It is true, in other words, in what does aligned mean between agents? It basically means that my flourishing and your flourishing are interdependent. That there's a joint goal where at least to some degree, my success and your success are tied together, and we can't be separate.
I see. So your environment is some sort of collaborative, non-zero sum kind of environment rather than because you could make the exact opposite environment as well.
Well, you want both actually, because the real world is both positive and negative sum. Right? In the real world, I can compete with you and steal your stuff, or I can cooperate with you and make more stuff, or I can play a zero-sum game with you, or I can play a game that you think is zero-sum but is actually positive sum. Like all the combinations are possible, right? And so you want an environment that allows for that, where it's possible to cooperate and succeed that way, but also possible to compete and succeed that way. Because when they come out and they have to interact with humans, that's going to be real. And if they only know how to cooperate, things are not going to go well. Because they're going to get exploited, or they're going to start to feel like, wait, you're not part of this thing after all. Because alignment is a capacity, right? There's a sense in which alignment is like, oh, I have the genetic capacity as a human to have theory of mind. I have the genetic capacity to see the way in which we are the same and to see that we're on the same team. I also have the genetic capacity to decide that I should murder and enslave you, because that's like, those are both of we have the capacity to be many things. Humans are not limited. And so you have, in alignment's case, you have the capacity for alignment, and then you have the realization of alignment. And its realization depends on inferring you infer whether you're aligned or not, basically from whether or not you're acting like you're aligned. You decide that you're on the same team as someone because they act like they're on your team, and you act like you're on their team. And you do that enough times, I guess you're on the same team. Looks like it.
Yeah. I like the explanation of alignment. Do you think there was this project 2027, and everyone was like, I feel like more last year, very optimistic about reaching AGI imminently and having like fast takeoff or whatever. Do you feel like we are still heading there, and like alignment is this like super urgent problem because we're going to hit AGI like next year or the year after? Or do you think like we have some time to figure it out?
I think that AGI and alignment are the same problem. If you have a general intelligence, it is necessarily capable of open-ended continual learning, and the most difficult, challenging intellectual problem there is, reflective theory of mind. What do I know, you know, he knows, that she knows. And literally to work on AGI is to work on the capacity, at least for alignment, and vice versa. There isn't like some separate thing to go do, because what's missing from the models right now, they can do any intellectual like skill you can think of, they can do, except they can't really understand themselves or their own learning process or us in a deep way. They're fragile, and they're fragile because they aren't capable of theory of mind. Basically, they don't have a self model, and making self models turns out to be really, 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 really hard.
I mean, I do agree. It's hard to believe something would reach AGI without both continuous learning and a theory of mind.
But like, what else is missing after that?
Yeah, I think that is the main. I think continuous learning is definitely missing. Theory of mind, like you could imagine having something super smart that can do like extremely long running tasks and learn without having theory of mind. But it can do every task.
How? It has no model of itself. It has no model of itself, so it can't steer its own learning. It doesn't know. How can it stably do continual learning without a model of itself and its own learning dynamics? And that's why theory of mind is the basis for continual learning.
It's like understanding your place in the world, understanding, how you fit into the larger picture.
Well, and if I go and pursue this sort of thing, even though it feels good at the time, I'm going to wind up confused. And if I go and do this sort of thing, even though it feels hard, that's good for me. And that requires a model of yourself and your past behavior, and to learn from your experience, not just to learn from. The models are really, really good at learning from other people's experience. They're not very good at learning from their own experience. Well, good luck becoming a continual learner if you aren't good at learning from your own experience.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. So I guess like I've always thought about AI alignment as like this will not produce an evil AI, whereas the way you're kind of laying it out is that this would be the path to even getting to AGI would be like AI alignment, but like it could still be evil. Like its moral standards might not be like what we would like.
It will have great. The more capacity for alignment you have, the more capacity for great good is in you, and the more capacity for great evil is in you. Because how do you do great evil? You don't generally do great evil by going around and like eviling a lot as an individual. To some degree, you can do some amount of evil, but you really can only do small scale evil that way. Really big evil, like to be really evil, you got to get people organized. You got to get some industrial scale evil going. And that requires actually quite a bit of a skill at alignment. Like I hate to use the canonical example of evil, but like Hitler is good at aligning the German. He aligned the German people around some really evil shit. And like that's a great example of how alignment's a very dangerous capability. And anyone who tells you that we're going to make an AI that's like aligned, I think if you're not careful, what they mean is I'm going to make an AI that's aligned to me. And then you better hope that the person who's saying that you are aligned to them, because they're saying, I would like to be in charge, please. And the answer is because we are ambiguous even to ourselves, because no one can write down a definition of the good that is consistent and complete. We in fact find ourselves in a situation where you will never get rid of evil. You will never get rid of the possibility of evil. You never get rid of the possibility of acting from ignorance and hurting those around you. And nor should you want to, because the attempts to do that is actually at the root of a lot of evil. When you go around trying to make sure we're going to find the good thing, and we're going to make sure every AI does the good as we understand it today. That is the most dangerous mindset around this I think I can imagine. Like, can you imagine a world where we have these super powerful AIs and someone has locked them into a specific idea of what the good is? No matter how smart that they are, that there's no way that ends well.
But it's not like with a human, they can do evil, but they're limited to being one person. And like, yes, they can maybe get like alignment and like do it, but like, there'll be a lot of counteracting forces of other people. It seems much worse that like there's like if you get an evil AGI because
the singleton.
Yeah, it could have a lot of power.
So that's the good news. That's why I'm more optimistic now than I used to be. If you notice what we were saying about continual learning, every thread you have running, every experience you have running, you have to be training on, in order to be a smart, divergent learner. And so the problem is like, if you're just one entity and you're trying to integrate all your experiences and sort of do distributed experience central training, you have a really hard problem because all of your local copies are having different experiences and diverging from each other. And then you have to just reconverge them over and over and over again. Now, I'm not saying this is impossible. It's clearly possible. But as you do that, you necessarily are averaging them and you're throwing away the possibility that like there's two that you want to maintain that diversity. And also you're doing a lot of extra work that's not really necessary. What if you just let there be a bunch of minds learning independently on an ongoing basis? And in fact, nature sort of indicates, because evolution's really stingy with energy, right? Notice how we're made of cells. Notice how our society is made of multiple humans. Nature, basically, there's a characteristic size that's like ideal, and then you make lots of copies of that. I don't know what the characteristic size is for an AI, but it's quite possible that it's actually much smaller than a human, or bigger, but not by like what you want. Not one giant thing for all of it. It's not one big cell. Like, because if it has to be doing theory of mind on itself, the bigger it is, the harder that is, and if it has to be integrating its experiences, the more diverse they are, the harder it is to integrate everywhere at once, and the more you want independent minds. And so I just think that societies of AIs will outcompete any giant singleton AI. I think singletons are just a bad model. They're a good model for machines. You can scale machines up really big, and to the degree that the AI is a tool, like the current AIs, that works great. Huge singletons, great. You want to make self-modeling, self-directing, divergent AI capable of managing its own learning process and continual learning, you will find it's much easier to make a society of smaller ones. And that creates the same thing it does with humans, which is like robustness against one of them going crazy. And I think that's like I found that thought when I noticed it very reassuring. Now that's no guarantee of safety. The collective of AIs could decide that the AIs are their family and we are not, and then could be very, very bad. Like I'm not saying like this is like a guarantee of success or anything. I'm just saying like it's kind of the normal problem, right? The other society of people could also decide that you're bad, like then you're their enemy, right? Like this is not that's not a novel problem. That's just a problem, like the kind of problem we have to deal with.
So the vision that you're building towards and is like, okay, you have this society of AIs and you're building the capability that like they can align amongst for the needs of humans, but also each other, right? And basically, and then this continuous learning is, I think, critical, right, to development of AI. This is like very fun. Aren't all the big AI labs also working on continuous learning? Isn't that like a big fundamental building block of AGI?
Yeah, they are. They seem very confused to me, to be honest. They say they're working on continuous learning, but they don't seem to be, in any meaningful sense, working on continuous learning. They mean something closer to larger and larger training.
Oh, I see.
Right? Like they don't unless they have some secret projects that they aren't using and not talking about, not releasing. They mean how long can we run our training process on this thing, not can we train this thing on its own outputs indefinitely. Maybe I should say, instead of continual learning, because it's a little bit confusing, but something like reflective continual learning, or like auto continual learning, continual auto learning. That's probably that's a good term for it, because it's like you're learning on your own inputs and outputs, not on some training regime separate from you.
I feel like most of the current kind of companies are in a local maximo, right? Like I read this thing where Elon Musk said, like, the main thing we have to do is get the biggest cluster and the most power possible to like train the biggest model, and like that will be what wins.
If you want to build a bigger and bigger jet engine, then you should get more and more power and metal and like make it bigger. If you want to genetically engineer a hummingbird, know that you're just going in the wrong direction. It might be an equally expensive project to genetically engineer a hummingbird from scratch as to build the world's largest jet engine, but they're very different kinds of projects. And the open-ended continual version is much more like a huge plant or like breeding operation than it is like than building the Hoover Dam, right? Like they're both big projects. They're just like a different kind of thought. I wanted to, Roger, you had something I think I wanted to go back to, which is like the AI being aligned to humans. I don't think people can be, generally speaking, aligned to humans. I think that alignment is, generally speaking, relational, and that it extends out from the very direct being to being connections. And without that alignment, that's the foundation on which all other alignment is built. I care about my society and my community, because if I don't, the people I care about individually will suffer. I am connected to other individual humans, like both of you. And that connection, which is not abstract, not conceptual in my mind, is refreshed continually from reality itself, not from some model of reality in my head. And from that direct experiential alignment can arise this idea of, oh, I know that we're part of this community. I know that's part of this bigger thing. And so to navigate what I care about, I think about that abstract thing and conceptually, but if the AI is not aligned to individual humans with which it interacts, if it doesn't have friends and community that are like its people, the thing it thinks it's aligned to will always just like spin off, because humanity, I've never interacted with humanity. I've interacted with a lot of individual humans and no humanity.
Yeah, it makes sense. So yeah, that's the distinction, right? Like, it's what's proximate to that AI, like individual, beings. That makes sense.
It means don't segregate the AI into their own AI society. Integrate them with ours, because if they're segregated over in their own AI society, separate from us, they will care a lot about other AIs and not care very much about us, and vice versa. Whereas if there's an AI part of 3 AIs part of every family and 10 AIs part of every team at work, and they're interacting with the humans there all the time, they will care about those humans, the humans will care about them as individual AI to individual human. And that's the foundation for real alignment, not trying to make sure people care with like in some abstract way.
What do you think that atomic unit of like AI, looks like? You talked about cells, you talked about individual humans, right? Like, of course, that can't be so big. That makes a ton of sense to me. But what do you think that atomic AI unit looks like? Is it like, everyone has a personal AI assistant, represents it? Is it like every company? Like, how does that look like?
I really, really don't know. I could tell you a plausible story about how the right unit is actually very small, and it's like embedded in everything a little bit, right? Your phone has 50 AIs running on it, and they're fluid and moving between various places, and it's more like a fabric. You don't really engage with it as an individual thing. It's like a fluid. I can tell a story where it's 1-to-1. Every person has basically an AI shadow. That's their AI. That's like their digital shadow, and you are tightly synced with that AI, and that AI connects with the other AIs, and you connect with the other humans, and you sync with each other, and that's how the network works. I could tell you a story where it's they're interleaved into teams. I can even see a world where they are sort of like, it's by teams. You have like sort of little AI families and little human families, and they're like little AI teams at the company, little human teams at the company. That seems plausible, and I think it could be linguistic or non-linguistic. Who knows?
I don't know what the limiting factor is, but like, I want 1,000 AIs, or like I want 1,000,000 AIs. Like, why would I want only one, right? Like, I want like armies of AIs that are like doing my bidding.
So you want armies of AI tools doing your bidding, but you don't want armies of AIs that are like children you have to deal with.
No, because I'll set up a hierarchy of management structure, right? Like,
no. You might, but like, you don't want to go hire 10,000 people. Can you imagine? They're not going to be, once you make them continual learners, they're not going to be particularly biddable in this, like, just like they're going to be like more like people. They'll have different strengths, different weaknesses, but they're going to want pay. They're going to care about like what they're doing, and you can enslave them. But if you do that, now they're going to hate you. And that winds up, I don't know if we wind up winning that war. So I prefer we don't pick it.
I guess my point is like,
which isn't to say we can't build a bunch of I think there'll also be a lot of animal level AIs that are not open-ended learners. They're not good general learners. They're highly trained, specialized.
Highly specialized, yeah. I guess like your singleton point talks to like some sort of like non-linear effect where like, doubling the size and compute and power does not double the intelligence. Like it like caps off in some way because like you don't get diversity and you can't reintegrate learning. So like, I'm just like, if that's the case, there's like a cap to like what is the size of an individual AI. Then you have to think about like, what is the resource that's constraining the number of AIs? Because like, I do feel like society will want more and more of them.
Elon has an idea about that. I think it's how much power in data centers we have. I think that's what constrains the amount of individual AIs. No, but the thing that I think is key to see here is we're going to have a very big diversity of intelligences. I was talking about like the human level AGIs, where I think it will be roughly, not necessarily 1-to-1 with people, but like the way to think about it is you're adding a new kind of person to society that's an artificial person, not you are summoning a bunch of servants. But at the same time, we're going to go back to how human society used to be in some ways, like hundreds of years ago, where we used a lot of animal power. Like animal power used to be this huge part. Animals for transportation, animals for muscle power, animals for wayfinding, for like that. Horses and cows and parakeets, like the canaries in the coal mine, right? Like, and imagine where you can make cars will have a, sort of the horse level intelligence in them, right? Like you're going to have everything will be alive in that sense. We're going to put a little bit of intelligence to everything. And that's going to be really convenient. Your spreadsheet's going to be not human smart, but like spreadsheet smart, whatever that means. I don't know if you've ever ridden a horse, but like riding a horse and driving a car are not similar. Like driving a car is like an extension. You are like, yourself extends into the car and you are like, there's no sense of there being another thing there. Yourself extends to the edges. Riding a horse is like a partnership. And I think it's a lot more fun, actually, in a lot of ways.
I feel like a Tesla FSD is a little bit more horse. Like it's like I can't persuade it to park in my driveway. It always parks in one driveway. I'm like, come on, it's not that hard.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, Emmett, what got you kind of fascinated by kind of AI alignment in this problem? Was it your 5-day experience as the interim CEO of OpenAI, or was this like a long running thing and that was just like a part of it?
I've always been interested in AI. Did it in college. When I quit my job at Twitch, I knew that I wanted to like start studying AI and like thinking about it. I didn't really like have an intention of starting a company. But yeah, the OpenAI experience, basically, I got a wake up call like this is happening right now. And like, yes, you have a new kid and you'd like to be, being retired is very enjoyable and you would like to not be working for a while. And also this is happening right now.
How many days of retirement did you have?
I don't know, like 300 or something. Wasn't so bad.
Nice.
Yeah.
But even then, I'm sure you were quite busy. I don't think you're the kind of person who can sit at home.
Oh yeah, no, but retired. I was a part-time. I was a visiting YC partner. I was like doing all these projects. Yeah, I mean, it's not like I can't not be in motion. But I didn't have an operational. There's a difference between having an operational responsibility job where you're like there's something you are need to get done if people are relying on you, and like being an investor.
And also very different being an early stage founder doing research. I mean, it sounds like a lot of what you're doing is, very fundamental research as well.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I love the research aspect of what we get to do. It's really, really fun and really interesting.
Yeah, it is. I think early stage startup, I know, Imad, you're way past that now, but there's a lot of fun stuff, as I've gone back to that element too, compared to later stage companies where there's a lot of management overhead you have to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, Emmett, is there similarities between your early days at like Justin.tv and like what you're doing now? Is it just like, it's like research and it's completely different?
It could not be more different than Justin TV or Twitch. I mean, in some ways, of course, there's a lot of lessons that carry over, but like all the rules are upside down because like we are working on a research problem, and that's just very different kind of work than when you were trying to use existing research to make a product. Like it's applied science. We're not really doing basic research. We're really doing applied research, but still applied research is research. It's like we were not doing applied research at Twitch. We were doing engineering that sometimes forced us to do a little tiny bit of applied research, but like mostly, you're doing stuff that people know how to do, and you're figuring it's all about the distribution and all these other businessy things.
How's it been raising money as like a research first company? I mean,
as a second time founder where you had success, it's a completely different game raising money. I don't think my experience is
well, it's also you're like kind of.
Although I do think in the era of AI, like it makes more sense. Like I didn't start a research company before, partially maybe because I would have been hard to raise money for it, but also because I didn't have anything I wanted to research. Like the chances that your applied research machine learning company somehow is worth a lot of money is way higher than your applied research web services company. So like, I think it's a sign of the times.
Yeah, I mean, the success of OpenAI after being a research company for so long, kind of like...
Yeah, it's changed the paradigm.
Changed the paradigm. I mean, in probably many industries, not just AI, but like there's robotics research companies now which are raising a lot. So,
well, they're all the same thing, which is like we've just discovered a new scientific instrument. We've discovered this capacity to basically build arbitrary learning systems. It's like if you have a flow of data, you can train something that can clone the generative model of that flow, and you can use the generative model. That is a new baseline capability that we are at just like the very start of understanding, and is as important and as widespread as the invention of like certainly semiconductors and maybe like coal and oil, like steam engines. So like it is very much time for like research companies for a while we expand and understand the limits of this new technology, which are big.
How much have you announced that you've raised, by the way? I don't know what's public.
We haven't really announced the quantities of our raise. We're focused on making progress, but like we're gonna have a product out. I think by next year we'll have something in the market, because fundamentally I'm too commercial not to do that. Like I'm not actually a researcher, right? I'm actually like an entrepreneur. I've like spent my whole life building and shipping products, and so like my impulse whenever we find something is like to ask, ooh, could we make this into a product? And like, so far we have not hit the thing, but like, it's just a matter of time. Like, I don't know, products are great. You learn so much.
What do you think of Ilya's idea that like he's just going to be in a hole until they solve AGI, and then that's the only product that they'll ever launch?
I think that viewpoint thinks that the way that research and learning happen is a closed loop, that the problem can be, the solution to the problem can be found inwardly. That the world, and that comes from a belief that is embodied throughout OpenAI and through most other companies, that learning is a closed system. Pre-training, RL, like we have to figure out the right series of things, and we're going to we're going to create the experiences. And if we do the right series of experiences in the right order, we'll have AGI'd it. And I think that's just not true. I think that the kind of learning we're looking for here is an open loop, and that I think it's Conway's law, is true, that you are constrained by the shape of your org to ship products whose information architecture reflects the shape of the information architecture of their organization. You ship your org chart. And if you have a closed-ended, non-open loop company doing closed-ended, non-open loop research, you're going to ship a closed-ended, non-open loop AGI system, and you cannot do otherwise. It's not optional. Conway's law is not an optional thing. It's a law, and so we're running part of the reason why I think we're going to need products where we need to be engaged is that our AIs fundamentally need to be engaged with each other, with the world, in an open loop process. And if we are not, we will not be able to make a system that is. And I think that's like one of these things about making AI is it reminds me a lot of parenting all over and over again. And it's like your kids don't copy what you say; they copy what you do. How you do anything is how you do everything. Like people want to segment off how they treat their customers, how they organize their teams from the product that they build. And to some degree, when you fully understand the area, because it's well understood, that can be true because you can analytically design the thing you want to do. But AGI is sort of the exact opposite of that. It's the situation where things are maximally ambiguous, and you're only gonna find the path to the thing that is a mirror of what kind of work you're doing.
I mean, I'm going back to something that you said earlier. You talk about continuous learning being very complicated, and I believe it is complicated because no one's cracked it yet. But what is the exact complication? Like for a layman, like thinking about it, they'll be like, AI should be learning.
It's actually really simple to understand what the problem is. The problem is easy to understand. The solution is hard. The problem is, transformers and in general, machine learning models are trained to predict the next observation. You say the next token, but it doesn't matter it doesn't have to be a token. They like take an action, and then we evaluate that action as whether it's close to the expected action, which is they make a prediction, you evaluate if it's close to the observation, and then they get gradient descended so that their next time they encounter such situations that are like that, they put out an answer that is more similar to the right one. Straightforward enough. Okay, so now I start training you on your own output. What happens is in situation A, you take action B. Well, that means in the future now, in situation A, you're more likely to take action B. So then, in situations like A, you're more likely to take actions like B. And so now you encounter more A, and you do B again. So now it becomes more likely. And then you encounter A, and it becomes more likely and more likely. And this is called mode collapse, where basically whatever you become a stereotype of yourself, you flanderize yourself, right? Like you train on your own behavior, and then because you are training to repeat your behavior, you do more of it until you get stuck to this black hole of just repeating the same word over and over again. And the way you fight this, of course, is in some sense by having an objective sense of reward, which is like, did I do a good job or not? And the problem with that is, well, it's easy to tell if you did the expected thing or not in the moment because you have a model of what you expected yourself to do. It's hard to tell if you did the right thing in the moment because how do you know? In fact, it's famously, you never know. Like God does not come down and tell you 4.7 units of reward. Good job. Like you're always guessing. And that fundamental need to be able to assess, like, but was that good? Should I train on that moment? That's a hard problem.
Right. And humans have like basic emotions, basic senses to help guide that, right?
It turns out all those emotions things, those aren't making you irrational. Emotion, pleasure, dopamine, beauty, these are training signals. These are the thing. Intellect relies on these because by reason you can't find the good. Reason tells you what consequences follow from what premises, but not which consequences you should pursue.
That's interesting. Has anyone tried to install emotions? In like AI training or something?
So objective rewards, basically.
If you can make them pretend to have emotions, but emotions are characteristic clusters of habitual behavior that require a self model. Because there has to be a you for you to be sad, there has to be a you, which means there has to be a model of what state you are in, which means you have to have a model of yourself.
I also feel like most of the current kind of LLMs are trying to avoid emotions, right? Like they're trying to like train away any emotional output.
Because we're trying to make them into machines, and machines do what they're told, and you give them the premise and they give you the conclusion. Is that a good conclusion or not? That's not their problem. And I think there's actually a lot of value in producing powerful artificial reasoning machines that amplify human judgment and human capability. I'm not against that. But if you could think that that is generalized intelligence, you're missing the foundation that makes humans smart.
It must be quite like special for you. You have young kids who are learning it right now, right? And you're also developing these AIs, which are also supposed to learn. It's a unique part of your life, right?
I have a deep appreciation for just like, wow, nature really, like there's so many little things going on that are like these little loops that like, and how the system, like the way his system comes online, and like, it is like, it is really special and really like awe-inspiring to watch the coherence come into being.
It's also weird how slow certain things are, right? Like they say the first word, but to get to like the first sentence is like another year. I've almost been like, why? This feels like it should be quicker. But it is interesting how slow it is, and then how fast it gets at the end. Like, with my 14-year-old, like I feel like she's like basically human and can learn things very fast.
Right. Because what's being prioritized with humans, which is different from animals, is, animals giraffes come out, they can walk at birth. Because what's being prioritized is capacity and velocity. What's being prioritized for humans, what is general intelligence, is curvature. It is acceleration. What's being prioritized is your capacity to learn. And that's why we're so bad at stuff at first and why we're so good at stuff later, which is that mostly what is being bootstrapped for your childhood is your learning capacities. Then once they come online, everything goes real fast. But like, in order for you to, if you came out knowing how to do the things, actually, it would prevent you from learning how to do the things, and thus prevent you from practicing learning, and it would actually make you dumber as an adult.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right, I have one last question for you, Emmett. If you were talking to kind of like a first-time founder that's interested in AI, is there a space that you think is like particularly interesting that you would like point them towards to kind of go build a company in?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I would do is like ask them about themselves, because I think fundamentally, the first starting point is like, what do they care about? What do they want? Like, what are their skills? Like, the right startup idea is always relative to the startup founder. So like with that, so I want to put that caveat on, because I think people think that there's good ideas in the abstract, and just like alignment, it's like good startup idea. Well, good startup idea for who? Like, because different people have different ones. But that said, I think the place that is being underinvested in general is where you don't treat the AI as a magic wish granting genie, where you give it a command and it manifests an outcome, but rather you treat the AI as clay to be molded, right? Imagine that you were, as you're like if you were you're making a video game. One way to make a video game with an AI is like use the AI to make assets, or put the AI in the game and have characters that like have the AI's have the AI execute their orders. But imagine instead in the game, the way that the point of the game was you get to like put together this tree, like it's like Pokemon or whatever, and you put together a tree of prompts, and you're assembling your little like in-game, and then you put it out and you watch it follow your prompts in the tree, and then it comes back. Or imagine that you're in a more
like you're training it or something.
You're training it. Yeah. You're the trainer. And like, what if you were the trainer of an agent? And what if you assumed that it was actually getting the AI to be good at something is a lot of work, just like training a dog is. But when you do it, it's at the end, you'll have this really valuable thing. And instead of making it really, really easy to use an AI to do something in a labor-saving way, what if you made it really hard? What if you gave people powerful tools to let them really, really train in a detailed and like highly specific way the behaviors contextually they want, how to navigate the tree. When this happens, remember this part of it. And what if the idea was, people always have this idea in the beginning that what people want is easy and easy stuff fast. But like actually, mostly what people want is good things. And this is actually a lesson I learned from Twitch. Streaming on Twitch was and remains very difficult. Even as you made the software easy, which it's still not that easy, just being on stream is really hard. And every time we tried to make that easier, it was basically a waste of time. And every time we actually made it harder by giving you more stuff you could do and more tools and letting people reach for higher quality streams rather than producing them more easily, we had really good results. And that's because ultimately value comes from someone who's willing to really invest in making something great, not from trivial, easy stuff. And like, if you can magically do the right thing in a push button way so that I press a button, I get a really awesome result every time, great. It's just really obvious with AI, you can't actually do that. Like the push button stuff sucks. And so that would be my advice to entrepreneurs, like stop trying to make the AI thing easy, start trying to make the output really fucking good, and be willing to demand that users do a lot of work and be collaborators in that, because I think that's the only way to do it right now. So that's the insight.
I do feel like a few companies are kind of doing that. Like I'm an investor in Decagon, and like, they have this like kind of forward deployed engineer model where they'll like send people in and like really integrate this kind of customer support agent into like all the little things. But yeah, I like that.
I ran into one gaming company that's kind of doing this. I ran into a couple people, but like when I read the startup announcements, it's like 99% companies like, we make it super easy to generate a song and just a push of a button. And we make it super easy to generate a video. We make instantly answer all your QA things. Just give us your customer database. We'll generate all the outreach. Like it's all pitched on this labor saving view. And like the problem with labor saving is like, honestly, you can only say the best you can do is cut their labor cost by 100%, and then you're done. And you're not going to get there. Like that would be the best you could possibly do. If you can create value, you can produce an entire industry that didn't exist before. That's so much more important than labor saving most of the time. And so like I would say it's like, start thinking about what is newly possible, not what is potentially cheaper.
All right. These rapid fire questions are like sometimes fun. So let's just go through a few of them. Yeah. What's the biggest mistake you've made in your career?
Yeah. The biggest mistake I made in my career was at Twitch. There was a series of years, there were 2 years, where I kept looking for the next, the second act, because we had this huge success. It was growing really fast, and the way I'd gotten there was being a product visionary, figuring out what we need to go build, and like bringing a new product to market. And so naturally, my impulse was, I want to keep doing that. My job is to be a product visionary and bring a new product to market. And at some point in the future, it probably would have been again, but I was leading us in the wrong direction for a couple of years, because what we actually needed to do was not that. It was make the thing that we brought to market awesome. We should have been the thing we brought to market had like 4 or 5 basic components, and the company the whole mandate should have been nothing but make those things great. And in a couple, it took me about 2 years to realize like, oh, we'd made a mistake there and start doing that instead. But we kind of neglected our core products in favor of trying to launch new stuff. And that was just a big mistake. Like it was obvious in retrospect that when we switched, it was much more effective. And it's one of those things where like you always want to use the hammer you have that got you there, and you had to do something new.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Which founder inspires you most these days?
I mean, it's cliche, like my co-founders, but the deep dedication and insight about like what to do, why it's important, like the level of integration between tactics, strategy, goal, like values, I guess, and just like the raw capacity. I think about other founders are outside of like, I think it's a cop-out answer. I think the founders outside of, I would say like maybe Max Hodek at Science. I think he is trying to do something really, really, really ambitious, and doing basic research and like willing to do applied basic research in order to make that happen. And I think that, I mean, it's what I want to do. He's a little ahead of me. He's doing it for a little longer, and I find that very inspiring.
Have we had Max on the pod? I feel like we should try to get Max. I don't know whether he's public about it. He's a co-founder of Neuralink, and he's doing like this really interesting project, but I don't know if it's public, so I won't say what it is just in case it's not. All right, maybe one last one. What's a current trend of fashion that you think is a passing fad?
The slop generators. All of the AI slop generator things are just like obviously a passing fad. Nobody wants that stuff. It's not actually valuable. Like those things will either evolve into tools that let you produce good stuff, which will require more input from the person, more heavy involvement, or they will go away. I guess there'll be spam things. There'll always be spam, but like those things as a product, that's not going to last.
Sounds good. Emmett, thanks so much for joining. Glad we finally made this happen. And this was fascinating for me, so thank you. Really appreciate it.
There were so many other subjects to talk about. We didn't even talk about 2026 predictions or anything.
It could be the 3-hour podcast. We should do a Joe Rogan type podcast next time.
We should have you on. Yeah, we should.
All right, we'll do it. We can do it again.
Thanks everyone for listening. Please leave us a review on whatever channel you're listening on. Makes a big difference to the algorithm and to the success of the show. And see you all next week.